Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. My name is Christina. This is a reading for Virgo moons, or if you have Virgo anywhere in your chart and you're wanting to work with or balance the feminine energies within yourself, then this reading might also be for you. I've already pulled your cards, Virgo. So let's start with the bottom of the deck energy. So you have here the eagle and the otter, which I absolutely love together. I feel like Virgo, you're at this really important almost like a transition point between like gaining some sort of insight, I want to say, perhaps about a past relationship, or it's also like talking about getting a piece of information that may help you move towards your next relationship. There's both of that sort of energy happening within those two cards today. And then you have here the bloom and the liberty, which is so interesting because I feel like the bloom here is talking about, with all like the braids, there's some sort of knot that's needing to be untangled. And I feel like that's sort of what this reading is talking about. There's some sort of knot or some sort of energy within you is tied up. And I feel like that's sort of what's preventing you from moving forward, because I see this Liberty card as being sort of like a dream that's been locked away, right? Like, because she's holding stars, so that talks about like wish fulfillment, right? But it's kind of like behind your back. It's like something that you can't quite bring into the physical for whatever reason, and I feel like it's being tied up by this bloom energy. And then here you have the Queen of Cups and the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords is exactly what it is that's needing to be released. I feel like it's not your energy, Virgo. It's something that's like an influence that has affected something about yourself. And it could be related to like a feminine energy, perhaps. With the Queen of Cups coming out, I feel like this is more so the Queen of Cups talking about heavy emotions. Honestly, Virgo, I tried to do your reading on Friday, and I felt... It could have been my energy, I won't lie, it could have been mine, but I feel very much like your energy is feeling a bit heavy right now, because I feel like you're going through some sort of like ending, it feels like. And perhaps just like needing a lot of rest is kind of what it was feeling like. I had to take like the whole weekend to basically just sort out which energies were mine and which were in preparation for this reading. And so even this morning when I was getting ready for this, like, I personally felt very excited to get your reading done. But at the same time, there was like this like very like sort of tight knot within my chest that I did not think was mine. So I feel like that's yours, Virgo. And it's like kind of like, for me, it's like whenever I feel like that, I know I just like, once I get through this difficult part, I'll feel better. I feel like that's sort of what your energy is today. There's some sort of difficulty, some sort of like knot, and it could just be like an energetic sort of tie or something that you're needing to release. And once you do that, you'll feel better is kind of how it's feeling today. So we're going to start with, what's your current energy? That's the first question we're asking. We have the snake here and the mermaid's love. So again, if this is your reading, it feels like that you've just ended some sort of partnership is what this combination of cards is coming through as, or a relationship of some sort. And it might not even be something like really, like, it may not be super recent either, is kind of how I was getting it. Or it feels like you're moving on very quickly, right? It's like that if you've ended a relationship, because I do feel like you've ended it for some reason, like something about it wasn't working for you, and so now it's kind of just like almost like cleaning up or like gathering your things or something like that. With the snake, it's sort of coming through with like protection, and also like really figuring out what's your energy, what you're gonna keep, and what's not, what you're just gonna let go, right? That's sort of how I'm seeing this. I don't know what it was about that relationship that wasn't working, but it seems for you, Virgo, it wasn't right for you, and so you're just sort of moving on. It's kind of how it feels to me, which is absolutely right, is what I'm going to say. It's right. It's in alignment with you. And then here you have the Magician, which is kind of what I'm seeing is like you packing up your things, Virgo, right? Packing up your things, moving on to the next thing. The Magician talks about like a new start. Like I always see this as being sort of like an airplane, right? Like if you ever look out the window in an airplane, this is what the ground looks like. So it could be that it just feels like moving very quickly, right? I feel like whatever this relationship or partnership was, it doesn't have to be romantic, though I do feel that it is more inclined that way. It feels like it doesn't, because the Three of Swords didn't come out. It's not like a heartbreak energy. It kind of just feels like it wasn't right for you. You realize that you're moving on quite quickly is kind of how it's feeling. With the King of Swords coming out next, I'm seeing this as just sort of like being very clear in your words, perhaps, as well. We just passed the full moon in Gemini. I always wonder like if Gemini and Virgo have some sort of link because they're both ruled by Mercury, right? So I feel like there's something there of like perhaps just releasing things that are not in alignment with you, but having also like this connection to like your guides is kind of how this is coming through. I was getting sort of like a Kill Bill type energy with this. Again, it doesn't feel like you're angry or like it ended badly. It's just kind of like getting rid of anything that's not in alignment with you is basically how this is feeling today. However, the next part out, it's like there is something that you need to release though, Virgo, and I'm not sure if you're seeing what that is. You may be, because you have here the Devil next. So this one talks to me about like there's something in your energy, this sort of spider energy that's not that needs to be released, basically. And I feel like it requires this King of Swords energy of being able to identify what that is. I feel like maybe that's sort of what this reading is wanting you to focus on, is even if you're not sort of like upset about it, or there's not like it doesn't feel like a big heartbreak, right? Like it doesn't feel like something that you've been, because the Queen of Cups I sort of see as being sort of in your feels, right? So it may be that you may be feeling a bit detached from your emotions, actually. There may be that kind of aspect. Perhaps you haven't like cried about it, or just like, if it's not crying, right? Like there hasn't been any sort of like emotional processing, perhaps. I'm just thinking of my sister years ago. She was with somebody for 2 years, and then the relationship just sort of ended because they were going sort of in different paths. It wasn't working. She wasn't heartbroken about it at all, even though they'd been together for 2 years, and could just kind of moved on with it. That's sort of what I'm getting from your energy today. However, there's this something, what you have next here is the Beaver, and it came out in reverse. And so what I was feeling with this is kind of like the dam, right? Like it feels, because this is like the intersection between like earth and water, it was kind of feeling like if you just pull on one of the sticks in the dam, all of this water is going to rush through. And so there may be this sort of energy of like, that's what's needing to be released for you, Virgo, especially if you've been feeling any sort of like stuckness, right? Or just like something is not quite right and you might not be able to identify what that is. It's like there may be some sort of physical thing that you can do, like an activity, or just like there may be some sort of like remnant of your ex, perhaps, let's say, for example, their energy, or like something that they've left behind, perhaps, that you can get rid of in order to almost like release this emotional wave that's going to pass through you. Because here I'm seeing this tiny triumphs came out with this next, right? And so if you look at this mermaid's love, how I was seeing this was like you being sort of this mouse character, but the person is no longer in your energy, right? Like that's over, but it's like there's still some part of them with this sort of crow that's in your space somehow. It's like there's something about their energy, could be like a physical object, right? That's still somehow in your space or influencing your energy, and it's like that's the thing that needs to be removed and released. And once that happens, it kind of just unlocks or just like releases all of this sort of emotional energy is kind of how this is feeling. Okay, because you have here next the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles, which is so incredible. This card always makes me slightly uncomfortable because of the butterfly on the chest. Like, I think butterflies are beautiful creatures, but when you see them up close, they're kind of creepy, right? There's a little bit of like a ickiness that I don't like about this card. And I feel like recently I was watching this video. It was an interview between two members of BTS, where they were talking about art, like creating things, like writing songs, some sort of form of expression is actually a form of excrement. If you think about it in the way that when you create something, you're releasing or expelling any sort of energy within yourself. And like the whole idea of like art being an expression of pain, right? That's like by expressing yourself through art, it actually releases any energy that you're not needing or not needing to carry with you, right? So coming out with the beaver and all of this sort of like needing to untie some sort of energetic knot, perhaps there could be some sort of like artistic thing that you do, Virgo, that will help you to sort of release this energy, like expel it, get rid of it, get it out of your system kind of thing. Because when I was starting this reading, right, I was feeling all of this sort of tightness in my chest, and it's like this huge ass butterfly is like resting on your chest, Virgo, and you're just needing to sort of let it go. The beaver wanted to come back out. So I feel like there's this energy here, like especially if you were like living with this person, with the mermaid's love, or sharing a space in some way, and like you're like sort of cleaning things out. It kind of feels like perhaps just like sorting your things, right? To separate your things from their things. Because the beaver I always see is home, right? So it could be that you're like moving house and like sorting through the things that you want to keep. It may just be like, now I'm kind of getting, sorry, to make this sort of humorous, is kind of just like in Parks and Rec, I don't know if I should say this. In Parks and Rec, the character Ron, whenever he like ended a relationship, he burned an effigy. I'm not saying at all to like do any sort of violent things. It could just be some sort of like getting rid of is basically what this energy is talking about. Getting rid of sort of any perhaps physical things that about this relationship that will allow you to sort of release it. It's basically what I'm going to leave it at. I don't want to like... Anyways, okay. Then we have here the firefly, which to me is talking about like a new start, right? But it's all sort of this like unburdened kind of energy. It was coming through today as very much like hope, like new hope, or like moving towards the future kind of thing. Especially because you have here the Seven of Cups, which I always think about as like having all of this sort of new potential to work with. And just in comparison to the Magician, right? Because both of these have wands. So you are sort of entering into this space of like being able to create a new vision or like a new partnership, because you have here the Art of Seduction, which I will go back to. But just like comparing these two cards, the Magician, where it's like you're kind of there now, and then once you sort of release that energy, it's so much more free, right? This Magician I always see as being kind of like cramped, like you're stuck in an airplane. You can't really move. You have to carry all your things with you, kind of thing. It's a bit cramped. Whereas with the Seven of Cups, it's much more free, much more expansive, comes with a lot of potential, right? So I feel like that's what you're moving towards, Virgo. And then you have here the Art of Seduction, which... because you have both of these, right? This was the past relationship, and I feel like it's like you're moving towards something that is much more in alignment with you, because even though, like, the Mermaid's Love is sort of a lovely card, but I always felt like the dynamic between these two is kind of, like, not a match, right? Like, there's, like, the mermaid versus, like, some sort of bird figure, and so I feel like for me personally, this just doesn't seem like a match. It seems like this, like that's probably why you ended at Virgo. There was something not working in this dynamic. Whereas this card, the Art of Seduction, and you do have other cards that are suggesting this as well, that this next partnership is going to be much more in alignment with who you are. It's kind of how it's feeling. And then you have here the Strength card. So the Strength and the Devil actually came out together, which I actually really love, because the Strength I've heard described before by other readers that it's sort of the only thing or the only energies that can defeat the devil, right? It's like being able to identify patterns within yourself, perhaps, is kind of how this card is coming through, of like perhaps why that relationship didn't work, right? There may have been some sort of like pattern that you were going towards, Virgo, like some sort of like it satisfied some sort of devil energy within yourself. I don't like the how it's called the devil. I feel like it should be called something else, like pattern, like a behavioral pattern that is not serving you in some way. But using the strength, your strength, in order to be able to sort of tame or change that pattern that's no longer working for you. It sometimes is coming through with patience, right? Because this lion I see as being almost like like a child asking if we're almost there yet, right? It's a very sort of like melodramatic kind of energy the lion is. So it could be like soothing that sort of aspect within yourself of like soothing impatience, perhaps it could be. I feel like that's sort of what your current energy is just sort of like self-soothing and telling yourself that it will work out. This difficult period of like going through breakup perhaps will end. There will be sort of an ending, and it could be that just like getting out, like having your own space perhaps will be helpful to sort of release any of that like that tension is kind of how it's feeling. Okay, Virgo, we're going to move on to what's something that you need to know for the next section. So we have here the dolphin to start off, which I absolutely adore because it's talking about like reconnecting with your joy, right? The things that make you happy, all of that. And then you have here the night ride, which is just sort of bringing in more of that sort of firefly energy of like hope. I feel, because the intuition that I was getting for your reading today, it's not like this relationship was horrible, right? It doesn't feel like any sort of like negative thing, but it just kind of feels like they weren't a match to you. And so perhaps there's this sort of energy of like wondering if there is going to be somebody who absolutely is a match to you. And I want to say that yes, there is, absolutely. But anyway, with the night ride and the 7 of Cups, it's talking about just having like inspiration again, basically having inspiration again. This night ride I always see as being sort of like being carried into the next thing, right? Like having your guides and support, perhaps just like friendship as well, or just like having good dreams that will bring you into the next thing. I worked with someone recently who told me like she had also a very like vivid sort of lucid dream experience, and she was telling me about how like before she met her person, like her long-term partner, she had a dream about him, not like exactly who he was and things like that, but she had like like a dream about like one of his interests or like where she would meet him, that kind of thing. So I feel like you may be like once you sort of release the energy of the past, which is what I feel like you're in the midst of doing, you may start to receive sort of like intuitions, right? It doesn't have to be in your dreams. It could just be like things that you're drawn to in the physical, like signs and synchronicities perhaps, that will bring you towards or bring you closer to your person, your match, is kind of how it's feeling. But what's interesting next is that you have the tiger, right? So it was like this, the dolphin and the tiger. So the tiger is a bit of a complex energy for me. I see this as being kind of like, if you've encountered any sort of like pain or trauma, usually it's like very, very past, kind of like very early on. That kind of pain and trauma, or it doesn't have to be that severe, right? It could just be like imprints or energies from those around you, like your parents and things like that. That energy can cause you to develop like defense mechanisms or just patterns of behavior that can actually be kind of isolating, because they force you into an energy of being really independent, right? It's like what I feel for this Virgo is that there may be some energies within yourself that are almost like putting you on the defensive in terms of partnership, because this past one didn't work out. There was something off about it, not in alignment with you. And it's like you're trying to find something that is absolutely a match to you, right? But this energy here may be something that's like needing to be released. It's kind of like a defensiveness about like that developed because of how perhaps you were treated as a child, for example, right? Like some sort of like forcing, or like if the conditions that you grew up in perhaps forced you to adapt in a way that is not this energy, the dolphin, which is much more sort of open. The energy is more flowing, like it's fun, laughter, whereas the tiger is more like anticipating threat, right? Like, so if you have like, for example, abandonment issues, that could be sort of how it's playing out, right? Like leaving people before they can leave you, for example. That's one example. And so the reason why I'm saying that is this energy, the red garden, which came out in the last Taurus reading as being sort of like a lizard with neck frills. I learned later that it's really just called like a neck frill lizard, where it's like when they're sort of alarmed, which is what all this tiger energy is. When they're alarmed, it's kind of like a rattlesnake. They will like open up the neck frills to make themselves appear bigger in order to scare off predators. So that's what this energy is coming through with like, I feel like for you, Virgo, something that you need to know is that there may be this sort of reaction in you when you meet your person, is kind of how it's coming through, right? There may be some sort of like defensiveness, or like putting yourself on guard, or displaying some sort of like defensive, almost like fiercely independent kind of energy in response to this person who is an absolute match to you because of some sort of past experience. I mean, it could be related to the last relationship that you left, is kind of how it's feeling. Perhaps not directly though, right? Because this tiger I often see as being like a much more long-standing behavioral sort of pattern that you've developed. And this past relationship might be showing you what that behavioral pattern is, right? With the devil coming out. But you do have the strength card, right? So it is talking about sort of like looking really closely at this last relationship, because it doesn't even feel like it was anything that was heartbreaking, but identifying what it was that wasn't working in that past dynamic that can help to shed light on why it is the relationship didn't work out, and that might solve what this issue is as well. Okay, Virgo, I'm going to end it there. I'm going to move to the extended. The link for that is in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I do have other videos if you're interested in checking those out. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.